So Dewey would say the goal of education is growth, and the goal of growth is more growth. And that kind of deepening and enriching and enlarging, exercising of interests and talents is the point of education. I can't say that early specialization does not produce great kids on their instruments. The question is that developmentally appropriate? Is that good for the kid? Does the child have a say in what's going on? I fell in love with Chinese folk music and appreciate the beauty of the guqin or the guzheng, pipa. These are such beautiful instruments, and I'm just lucky to have had that experience.
Do you know there's a thing called 艺考 in China? Art exams.
Yeah. E is art, like 艺术学院.
艺术学院.
E is art.
And then 艺考 is art.
考 like 高考.
高考.
So 艺考.
艺考. And a lot of students attending 艺考 are focusing on music performance. But later they have a challenge to find a better job. And do you have any advice for those students who are struggling to find a good career?
Because so much of traditional music learning comes from the 19th century. Here's your instrument, and here's the music, and I'll help you learn it. So that style of teaching hasn't changed in 200 years. The traditional teaching at Juilliard has not changed in 200 years. But COVID and remote learning taught us when the concerts halls closed, people couldn't perform anymore. Actors, musicians, we all had to learn technology. We had to think of different platforms, like what you were doing with this podcast. We had to reinvent ourselves using all the modalities that we had previously not used or not employed or didn't think we had to use. So my advice for the ECOW students would be to embrace as many modalities as you can as an artist, that you're not just a musician, that you're a producer, composer, an arranger, a teacher, a collaborator, and that you work across disciplines, find other people, find dancers to work with, find technology people to collaborate with. And I think there's more hope.
What role do you believe music education play at school beyond just teaching those music skills?
So one of our heroes in the 20th century in education is Jerome Bruner. And he, of course, talked about the spiral curriculum. But he made another spiral curriculum is any concept can be learned, no matter how difficult, at any age, if it's approached developmentally. So kids can learn and talk about the concept of justice. In kindergarten, what's fair, what's not fair? What do we agree to? What norms do we make? How do we want other people to treat us? So the concept of justice can be encountered at an early age, and that every time you return to it, you ascend in sophistication to that concept. So maybe later in high school, you encounter that concept through Aristotle or Confucius. But the other great contribution that Jerome Bruner brought to education was, rather than teaching math to students, rather than teaching music to students, we treat kids as mathematicians, or we treat kids as musicians. So rather than learning about history, we want our kids to be historians. And historians are people who gather facts, they interview, they analyze. A historian knows there's more than one story. A historian has to interpret the context in which a piece of history or an incident in history occurred. And so what we want to do is treat kids as musicians as early as when they come in the door, rather than teaching them about music, or rather than teaching them the elements of music, or rather than teaching them music as an object. We have kids doing what musicians do, compose, improvise, play many instruments, perform, and we can do that the minute they walk in. So in my field, it's very common that people will say, well, you can't compose until you've learned the basics, or you can't improvise until you've done all this, and then you get to do the fun stuff. But kids can compose, kids can arrange, kids can improvise from the very first day. And that these concepts, these practices, get more and more sophisticated, of course, as they re-encounter them. But it's not like something we have to wait for. So Dewey, John Dewey, he says education is the process of living, not practice for future living. So much of music teaching is, if you eat your vegetables now, you get to have dessert later. You spend years and years and years eating your vegetables, always waiting to get to do the fun thing. And so I think of process-based music making with, of course, product. There are moments where we want to share what we do. We want to perform on stage. We want to polish something and perform it. But process-based music education, I think, is the answer to what we should be doing more of in China, in the US, and everywhere.
So you're saying to make music education more comprehensive?
Yeah, interdisciplinary, more real, more authentic. Instead of always teaching about music, here are the 5 lines. Here's a treble clef. 4/4 time means 4 beats in a measure. A measure is divided into this and this and this. That's what destroys the heart, what takes the sheen out of what everybody loves music. So why do they hate it in schools?
And how do you think comprehensive music education will help with children's overall development?
Yeah. Well, it's deeply humanist, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it enlarges life. It helps us see the world differently. We hear multiple stories. We interpret the songs we're listening to. We debate their meanings. Every culture has music. Giving kids access to the fullest and richest range of musics is life-affirming and enlarging profoundly.
So you have a book called Remixing the Classroom, and can you talk about some main idea in the book?
I think the central theme of the book, that it says toward an open philosophy of music, is we live in an educational world that's very closed, that's test-driven, Gaokao-driven, Yikao-driven, audition-driven. We live in a musical education culture that is driven by the master-apprentice relationship. And that the book is a case for a more open vision. I think that, your earlier cards, the one about hierarchies and specializations, they all came, I think, out of, did you do that on purpose?
Oh, yeah.
A more open concept of music learning would be one in which we challenge those hierarchies, that we are more student-centered, we're more multicultural, we're more aware that kids come from all walks of life, and all cultures, all languages. That's a rich place for exploration. So another central metaphor in that book is the idea of laboratory learning. And I contrast that with museum learning. So you have objects, they're precious, we don't touch them, we stand in awe of them. Or the laboratory, where we mix things up, we take a concept and we play around with it, we make mistakes. It's messy. And so the laboratory, this experimental character, is also a central metaphor in trying to achieve this more open-ended philosophy of music education.
So the last chapter of your book says the field of music education is rife with the accessibility and privilege. And how do you suggest that schools and families who do not have much financial budget to access music?
Yeah. The onus is not on the family. The onus is on the music teacher. And the responsibility is on the music teacher, not on the family. So as music teachers, we have to think of the music classroom as a place of inclusion, and we have to design and create the kind of music spaces in which kids can thrive without having to pay $120 an hour for a lesson or buy these instruments made in the 19th century that are thousands and thousands and thousands. That we as music teachers have to rethink what inclusion and access means, because we can't put the responsibility on parents that kind of financial burden, or we're just going to continue the same thing that's going on right now, which is most music education is only available to a very small minority of students who have access to societal privileges. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I actually have a assessment for you.
Okay. You gonna test me?
Yeah, a
All right.
Chinese listening assessment.
Oh my God.
Try to capture the information, the
Okay.
lyric.
Yeah. Only
Only ears. Is this a song?
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I think I failed the test.
Don't worry about it. I won't write it on your
It's a
binder.
great song.
Yeah. Did you hear anything from the lyric?
Da, 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 da.
What about the last couple lyrics?
I think I need like 3 or 4 more listening.
听妈妈的话.
Oh, Ting here.
Yeah.
Mama. The Hua, speaking language culture. Hua.
听妈妈的话.
Tell mom, listen to mother. Speak language? The mother language.
No,
the
just
mother
listen to your
Hua.
mother.
Ah.
听妈妈的话.
听妈妈的话.
And the next one is 别让她受伤.
受伤.
受伤.
别.
别.
Uh-huh.
别让她受伤. 受伤 get hurt.
Don't receive or get what?
受伤 get hurt.
Oh, 受伤. Okay, don't get hurt.
别
Listen
让-
to your mom, don't get hurt.
Yeah, listen to your mom. Don't get hurt to get hurt. Okay, then why do you think the singer say this?
Maybe the singer's been hurt.
Well, it's actually in the first couple lyric of the song. It says the singer was sitting inside and playing the piano and drawing while others was playing. So that's about early training of music education. Yeah.
You have to share that one with me later.
Yeah, I will. Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Yay! Thank you. Thank you so much.
The torture's over.